Hey guys, Fred Wellman with the MeidasTouch Network, host of On Democracy, the FPWellman. Yep, it's indictment week, which is kind of funny because it's like infrastructure week, but this one actually happens. Donald J. Trump's been charged finally for the January 6th activities, his attempts to overturn the election, 4 charges, conspiracy charges. But a key part of the entire indictment have been the notes of Vice President Mike Pence. Now, Pence, he's not missing a chance to paint himself as a hero in all this, as he always does with this steely-jawed look. Immediately, he came out with a statement highlighting how this was inevitable and that no one should put themselves above the Constitution. If they put themselves above the Constitution, then they shouldn't be president. And then, of course, he's out doing the campaign circuit in Iowa, and he came right out at the Iowa State Fair with his strong statement. I mean, check out his first statement on the topic.
Irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution, but I chose the Constitution, and I always will. And I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again. I've been very forthright about this issue, and I'll continue to be.
He's been very forthright about this issue, and he'll continue to be. Has he really been forthright about this issue? I mean, has he been forthright about this issue? Because there's a whole damn history of him not being forthright. But he's obsessed with being in line with the Constitution. That's his big thing. Constitution, Constitution, Constitution. He's a brave defender of the Constitution. I don't think he is. You know, he went on to explain some more about the indictment. Check this out.
And the first time I heard in early December somebody suggest that as vice president I might be able to decide which votes to reject and which to accept, I knew that it was false. Our founders had just won a war against a king. And the last thing they would have done was vest unilateral authority in any one person to decide who would be the next president. I dismissed it out of hand. Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. And while I made my case to him of what I understood my oath to the Constitution to require, the president ultimately, continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution.
So there's the key thing. This is what caught my ear in that long statement. There's more to it, and I need to watch that crap. The first time I heard about this in December, think about that comment. He was read in on the conspiracy plan in December, okay? And then according to his notes, he had 3 more opportunities. There was a total of 3 times with the president, according to the indictment and his contemporaneous notes. 3 times the president came to him very directly and said, I need you to participate in this. I need you to reject the votes. Come on, Mike, do the right thing. Reject the votes. To include the night before, January 5th, when on January 5th, they came to him and said, Mike, you need to do this. And when Pence wouldn't do it, he called them too honest. But here's the thing. Trump literally said in that conversation that people are going to be angry, that they're going to be angry at him. Mark Short, his chief of staff, was so nervous about this. Mark Short was so taken aback that what he felt was a threat to the vice president. He alerted the vice president's Secret Service detail that there may be danger for him the next day. Think about that. The vice president of the United States, his chief of staff, was so nervous about an essential threat from the president of the United States that they alerted the Secret Service to danger. And that's it. Right? Did they alert the media? Did he alert Congress? Did he alert, I don't know, the media, anybody? Department of Defense. If you remember, the National Guardsmen weren't armed that day. Did the chief of staff of the vice president, the vice president himself, alert the people who could be ready for actual violence in any way, shape, or form, no matter the constitutional part of this? No, they did not. They did not. But what they did do is could carry on the plan. So, he's not being clear. But you know what? He's got to keep talking. So he goes on Fox News. Where else would you go, right? Got to talk on Fox News. Here's what he had to say there.
I was clear on that throughout. I was clear with President Trump throughout all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued. So, well, Martha, I just people can read the indictment, and frankly, I've said before, I had hoped it had not come to this point. You know, I don't know if the government can meet the standard, the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt for criminal charges. But the American people deserve to know that President Trump and his advisors didn't just ask me to pause. They asked me to reject votes, return votes, essentially to overturn the election and to keep faith with the oath that I made to the American people and to Almighty God. I rejected that out of hand, and I did my duty that day.
You know, to keep faith with his oath of office and Almighty God. Let's think about that. He kept his Almighty God faith. He knew ahead of time. He's saying, oh, they didn't want me to just reject votes. You know, they want me to overturn it. They didn't want me to just pause. They wanted me to overturn the election. He knew the criminal conspiracy as it was unfolding. 5 people died on January 6th. I'm not going to get into why or who. Obviously, Ashley Babbitt was shot. Brian Sicknick died. Other people in the crowd died from being trampled or having heart attacks. But 5 people died. It wasn't a little riot or a demonstration. Deaths occurred in our capital. But don't worry, Mike Pence has been forthright. You know, the funny thing is, you know this is all about politics, right? And you know, it's going exactly like you'd think it would as far as the Republican side. Well, yeah, let's go to Newsmax. Let's see what Newsmax has to think about his stalwart forthrightness.
Your dad's former VP had this to say on Twitter. So today's indictment serves as an important reminder. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And he wonders why he hasn't even qualified for the debate stage.
Yeah, listen, I'd always gotten along with Mike Pence. I don't think I've taken any shots at him. I'm not sure what lane he's ever running in. But when I read that, knowing what happened, having been in the room for some of these things, honestly, I was wrong to have thought as highly of him as I had in the past. That was a mistake, and I don't admit those things too lightly.
Yeah, Don Jr. is wrong. He never took shots at him. Yeah, did Mike Pence, you know, he stood up for the Constitution. He picked the Constitution and his oath to God. Did his oath to God mean he kept his mouth shut when they cleared the protesters out of Lafayette Square so Trump could walk across the street with a Bible that somebody handed to him to do a photo shoot in front of a church? Where was his oath to God then? Where was his oath to God when kids were being kept in cages? Where was his oath to God and the Constitution? All the criminal things that Trump did. Where was his oath to the Constitution when the president and his children used the White House for capital gains, making millions of dollars while serving in the administration? No. He found his oath to God and the Constitution afterwards. But what he did, though, he bravely took notes. He bravely took contemporaneous notes. As someone described in an article I read today, I think Slate, you know, he decided to be a stenographer. But let's say, you know what? Let's say that was during the administration. Maybe let bygones be bygones. Because, you know, obviously, since he left the administration, he has stood up for what's right and stood up to Trump. Has he? I mean, let's look. April 19th, 2021, here's an article. April 19th, 2021, he gave his first speech after leaving office and praised Trump. 4 months, not even 4 months, 3 months after 5 people died in our Capitol, when he stood up to God and the country, he was giving us his very first speech, praised Trump and their administration. But no, let's see, maybe he cooperated with investigations. Let's see, there was an impeachment. Didn't cooperate with that. There was the January 6th committee, refused their subpoena, refused to cooperate with the January 6th committee. Oh, bravely stood up for that. Oh, and then let's not forget the grand jury for this case that just came out. He refused that too. Like, here's him discussing how he won't participate in the grand jury because of some bullshit about being the executive branch he wasn't actually executive branch on January 6th. He was serving as the president of the Senate. So he was actually legislative branch. So he was protecting the Constitution by not testifying about the crimes to which he was a witness. Let's hear him talk about his bravery as far as that goes.
I'm going to fight the Biden DOJ's subpoena for the grand jury because I think it's unprecedented and it's unconstitutional.
Are you concerned about what happened on January?
The fact that no vice president has ever been subject to a subpoena to testify about the president with whom they served makes it unprecedented. But that goes to the issue of executive privilege. My understanding is that President Trump will assert that. That's not my fight. My fight is on the separation of powers. My fight against the DOJ's subpoena, very simply, is on defending the prerogatives that I had as president of the Senate to preside over the joint session of Congress on January 6th.
Yeah, so brave. Oh, no one, it's unprecedented that a vice president is being called before the DOJ. Well, it's also unprecedented that the president of the United States unleashed a coup on our Capitol. But hey, gotta protect the Constitution. Did that violate the Constitution? Mike didn't seem too worried about that because Mike's only worried about protecting his own backside and his political future. And the only reason he's come out now is because, well, there's an indictment. So mother let him talk. I mean, look at the pain. If you remember that first clip we showed in Iowa, he was pained to vaguely criticize Trump. I want to be clear that he violated, anybody who puts himself above the Constitution. I believe that Mike Pence put himself above the Constitution when he cowardly kept his mouth shut. Mark Short could have called the media. It could have called their stenographer, Maggie Haberman, said, hey, Maggie, there's going to be crimes tomorrow. It could have called the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, you've got a problem. I believe there will be violence at the Capitol tomorrow. You need to position your National Guard troops now so they're ready. There could have been 100 things they could have done other than meekly and cowardly go forward with the day like nothing was going to happen. He knew there'd be violence. They called the Secret Service. They were worried about his safety. His safety. Mike Pence put his safety above the Constitution. So by his own rule, he should never be president. Of course, he ain't gonna be. Let's look at the rest of his interview with Fox News. But I want you to listen to the end of this interview and you can see who this brave truth teller really is.
Looks like most of the Republican voters are not in that camp. It says 71% believe that Republicans need to stand behind Trump. This is the most recent brand new New York Times Siena College poll. Only 22% of Republicans say they don't need to stand behind Trump. What do you make of those numbers?
Well, I think that's a reflection of the disastrous presidency of Joe Biden. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. I just gave a speech here at the Indiana State Fair on inflation, and Biden's running around saying that Bidenomics is working. Good heavens.
Yeah, see? Can't criticize his own party because he wants their vote. No, it's Joe Biden's fault. Yeah, all the things Joe Biden's done. Did he enact a coup? Did he try to overturn the election? Did he force people to try and overturn the election by using the power of his office? Did he call multiple states trying to get them to create fake electors? No. Joe Biden's disastrous leadership is why his criminal boss is the 71%. No, Mike, your criminal boss is the 71% because you are a coward. And you and all your colleagues in the entire Republican Party are cowards. You had time after time, chance after chance to end his political career. 2 impeachments. All you had to do was cooperate and end this. You could have cooperated with the impeachment. You could have cooperated with the January 6th committee. You could have cooperated with the grand jury without having to be forced to. Oh, no. You got to blame Joe Biden. See, that's the thing. Let's go back to that statement he put out. Go to that last little part of the statement. What's the last part of it? As Americans, his candidacy means less attention paid to Joe Biden's disastrous economic policies, afflicting millions across the United States, and the pattern of corruption with Hunter. Yeah. Mike Pence, Mr. Christian, Mr. Brave, forthright truth teller. At the same time, he's criticizing his own boss, his own former boss, who broke multiple laws, now has 78 criminal counts against him. No, Mike Pence is so brave. He brings up Hunter Biden in his statement. Yeah, you're no freaking hero, Mike Pence. You're nobody. And the best part of this whole story is he's not going to have a chance of winning this election. He's going to slink back to Indiana and we'll forget him as one of the worst vice presidents in America, because the one thing this indictment does show is that Mike Pence, far from being a hero of the story, like he wants you to pretend to be, that he did his duty on January 6th. He did his duty after trying every possible way of getting out of it. You see, I've served in combat. I swore an oath to the Constitution. Matter of fact, it's almost the exact same Constitution that Mike Pence swore, to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. All enemies, foreign and domestic. I went to war 4 times because the President of the United States gave me a lawful order to go to war. I don't know why we invaded Iraq. That wasn't my place as a soldier at that time. I followed my lawful orders. I upheld the Constitution. He was given unlawful orders by the President of the United States. He was directed to do things that were illegal. And what did he do? He took notes. Not very brave. That's the Republican Party. Anyway, I'm Fred Wellman, MeidasTouch Network. Tune in to On Democracy with FPWellman every Friday night. I hope you'll check our show out.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.